Hi, welcome to Ocean's Mirror. So, yesterday, sorry, I'll start again. Bianca, right, I follow Bianca Ellis trial. So yesterday, when I took a look, I saw that they had given her sentence, and how she was apologizing to the lady for for unaliving her son and stuff like that. Obviously, there's a lot of emotions because the young, the young, the 3-year-old didn't even have a chance really, and they were saying that how right it was down to mental health and all that, and obviously right she had to be of sane mind so they can give the sentencing. So yesterday, the mum spoke as well, and Bianca apologized. Now, I don't know, like, words escape me. I would not want to say that how the apology right at this moment is a good is a good thing. And I also feel that when she goes to jail, because what happens to people like this who unalive children, when they go to jail, she's going to have it hard in the jail, right? But I feel they had her in a mental institution before, and she wasn't around prisoners or whatever. But I feel that when she does go to jail, it's not going to be nice. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm hoping that everything's going to be working well, and there ain't going to be no buffering and all that palaver. I'm going to play. I'm going to play a bit of this, okay? Now, I'm gonna try. I think I did save the one where the mum talks to her. But really, I feel that how with her, um, what she did was a heinous crime, and um, that apology is not going to bring her son back. It's not going to bring her son back. No matter what you say to her, it's not going to bring her son back. She's got to go through it soon. Beastmas in a month's time. She got to go through birthdays without him. She literally has to work through being without that her child. And mind you, he's only 3 years old. So you took away something that was so precious to her. You know, um, I wouldn't even want to hear an apology for that. To be honest, from coming from a mother's point of view, I don't think that whatever you say is going to help me. It's going to suffice me. It's going to make me feel um, at peace, um, and all that. But anyways, let me play. Let me play the.
Delivered a decision that Julian's parents had hoped for.
The court's going to hand down a sentence of life without parole.
Visible Gratitude Monday from a family dealt unthinkable heartbreak.
Justice cannot undo tragedy, but it can affirm that what happened was wrong and that your child's life mattered.
Before the sentencing for the woman convicted of his murder, we heard more about the short life of Julian Wood.
He was just so smart and funny and knew things that most little kids didn't know.
Julian brought laughter, light, and love in our home with his infectious laugh.
His family says they cling to those memories, but cannot escape the memory of how the 3-year-old died.
That woman murdering my son replays in my head every single day. It is my living nightmare.
Earlier this month, a jury found Bionca Ellis guilty on all charges for the murder of Julian and attempted murder of his mother. During the trial, surveillance video and testimony explained how Ellis stole a pair of knives at a North Olmsted thrift store and used one of the weapons in a random attack outside the nearby Giant Eagle. Julian died in the stabbing.
This crime did not only destroy one young life, it profoundly affected an entire community and the officers sworn to serve it.
Mental health has been a cornerstone of the case. The defense argued Ellis was not guilty by reason of insanity and maintained that view during sentencing.
Jurors should know that hospitalization could last as long as a prison sentence could last.
We have never disputed that Miss Ellis had a mental illness. There was never a dispute to that. The dispute was, did she appreciate the wrongfulness of her actions?
The judge also said the case highlights a gap in mental health services.
No family should have to lose a child, and no family should have to watch their loved ones deteriorate because meaningful and effective mental health services were unavailable.
Ellis herself spoke for the first time since the trial began.
I just want to say I apologize and I'm sorry for what happened.
The Woods called her actions unforgivable.
You deserve to go to jail for the rest of your life, so you can't hurt anyone else. You don't deserve a second chance. You don't deserve mercy. You didn't give my son any.
Ellis's attorneys say she plans to appeal both the conviction and the sentence in this case. She will be appointed a new public defender for that process.
I don't think she deserves it neither. I really don't. You could call me heartless on this one. She doesn't deserve it. Yes, she probably did have some mental breakdown. Yes, she did. Right, because even when I looked it up and checked it out, right, they said that they was waiting to see her to make her well for her comprehensions so before they sentenced her, and that's exactly what they did. Right, she apologizing. I feel that how her lawyers told her to apologize, like in the court, but that doesn't give no parents no comfort. The thing you did was horrendous. You had no remorse when they picked you up in your face. Whether you have mental health is a real thing, yes, it is. But to me, I didn't see no remorse in your face, nothing. I remembered when I covered it when it happened or came out or whatever. You had no remorse. Therefore, the sentencing actually fits the crime that you did. Life without no parole. That is just about right. So whatever you're saying, your apology just goes on deaf ears right about now. That apology, you can go stick it somewhere. I think that's how I would think as a mother. You go stick it somewhere where the sun don't shine, because you went out, like in the video as you saw, she goes and she approached them. Right, the mum did get poked, yes, but the son got it worse. He targeted them for what? Her apologies is just ridiculous. I'm just like, you're apologizing. Why apologize? I don't know why they let her do so much. I think they allowed her too much, to be honest. She don't deserve to even be heard. If you want to be brutal, you don't deserve to be heard. Let me see if I can find. I'm gonna let me see. The woman had no remorse whatsoever. She was laughing. The first time when they got her, she was laughing in the let me see if I can get to the sentence and hold on. Oh, here it is. Oh, there's so much break with it. Let me get to it. It's taking me a little while. Okay. Right. She don't deserve nothing. Like here she looked okay. The first time she was in the dock, she was smiling and laughing and all this palaver. So they brought you up to comprehension. They brought you up to comprehension so that you can face what you did. There's no mercy, man. Did I do it right? Oh, no, I didn't. I don't know. Because this thing is weird on this side. Okay. Right. Let's go through this.
With the sheriff of the county in which you establish residency within 10 days of coming into that county. You're going to have to provide that sheriff a number of items, your social security, full name, residence, the information regarding this verdict from the jury, addresses of employment or school, driver's license information. All of that's required to be provided if given that opportunity to be back in the community to the county sheriff. You're required to provide fingerprints and palm prints, and after the date of initial enrollment, you're required to re-enroll annually as well. And that's something within 10 days of the anniversary that you sign initially with the sheriff. If you change any of your addresses, you do have to provide written notice to the county and the sheriff as well.
Have the North Olmsted Police Department members of that department are here as well. We're going to begin this morning with Mr. and Mrs. Wood would like to address the judge.
All right, very good. I think we're going to have the podium, just so you could stand where you're at. We'll have you do that. We'll have Mr. Toms put it there. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
And I'll just note, I do have the microphone on. If you could just speak loudly and clearly, take your time if you're going to read from something. If you don't mind just stating your name for the record and just spelling it for the record.
All right, well, my name is Jared Wood, Jaredwood.
Very good. I'll ask the advocate maybe just to push that up a little.
Is this better?
Sure.
All right.
And thank you. I'll hear from you this morning.
Okay, thank you. I am here today to speak on behalf of my son, Julian Miles Wood, who is no longer here to speak for himself, and I am thankful for you to be able to be giving me this opportunity to do so. It's hard to know where to start when talking about him, so I guess I'll start with letting you know that our family is no stranger to the struggles of cognitive or behavioral differences. Our oldest child has autism. He was actually considered nonverbal, and it wasn't until he was about 7 years old when he became verbal. We tried everything we could to help as parents, but who I should say, actually got him to break free and open up and talk to the point to where we have actually a hard time getting him to stop now, was Julian himself. Julian had a special way with people to get them to grow and open up and just have fun. That was the kind of kid he was. He was funny, outgoing, fearless, and full of life, love, and laughter. The energy he brought to the world was boundless. I even called him my copper top baby because his hair wasn't quite the same color as red as mine, but it was more of a copper color like the battery. Julian loved dinosaurs, and outside of saying hi, mom, and dad, dinosaur was his first word, which actually shocked all of us with how big of a word it was at such a young age. He also loved Halloween, so much so that he chose to be a dinosaur every year without fail, and he would even find his old costumes throughout the year and put them on even though they no longer fit, not letting us take them off until it was bedtime, where we would have to put on his dino pajamas. However, these are moments that we'll never get the chance to share with him again. Julian had a way of letting you know he was near, like when he woke up in the morning, usually before daylight, with his thundering footsteps as he walked down the hallway from his room. That is when I knew it was my cue to get up to go get him some leche, which is milk. Another way Julian made his presence known was by taking his brother's toys and running around laughing because he knew he couldn't catch them, and it was funny to take big brother's things, which unknowingly helped his brother find his voice and start speaking up for himself. He always knew when you were down or feeling some kind of way, and he would do in his own way what he felt you needed to feel better. For me, when he felt I was down or had a rough day, he would get his brother and they would tag team wrestle me and just beat me up. We would roughhouse a little on the bed here and there, and he would also run into the kitchen whenever I came home from work to greet me. Sometimes I would tease him by hiding behind the doors, and he would look stumped to where I was. And I would jump out roaring like a dinosaur, and he'd roar back and then punch me in the stomach and go, "Ah, you scared me, Dad." For my wife, he would snuggle deeply and tell her he loved her. And sometimes he would fearlessly climb onto the counter and go into the cabinets and pull out a box of cake mix and help her make a cake. And for his grandmother, he was glued to her side. They had their inside jokes. He learned to love all the odd old candies like black licorice or candy corn. And for his brother, he would sit with him and watch videos on his iPad so Big Brother knew he was near. He was just so smart and funny and knew things that most little kids didn't know. Like whenever we would go in the car, he would always try to give us directions to McDonald's because he always wanted French fries. Another thing he always wanted to do was help us with errands. If he saw me or my wife putting on our tennis shoes, he would run and put his shoes on and wanted to go and just to spend time with us. Now, these are things we will never get to do with him again. What I am most sad about now is not just the time I don't get to spend with him, but the time his brother, his sister, his mother, his grandma, and all of our family that doesn't get to spend with him with the time again, and we are all robbed of that opportunity. He was on a path to be a big kid, which is why I called him my big guy too. He was going to be the protector of his brother and sister. That part was evident since the moment I brought Julian and his brother to the hospital to meet the new baby sister and see their mother. Julian was so in love with her. He wouldn't leave her alone or take his eyes off her while we're there. And he even tried feeding her while she laid in the crib sleeping. His sister won't get to know the amount of love he had for her other than from what we tell her. She didn't even get a full 2 months with him before he was taken from us. When we had our daughter, I finally felt I had a full life. I had everything I ever wanted. A beautiful, loving wife, 2 sons and a daughter. It didn't even last all 2 months before that monster took him from us. Now all of our hearts will forever be missing a piece, and it's up to all of us to keep his light shining, even though his star is gone. With that, I would like to thank you for taking the time to hear me out and speak about our son and what he was able to give this world in such a short time. And thank you again to the prosecution, Anna and Jillian, for fighting so hard for our boy and my wife. And thanks to the jury for getting it right. And thank you to the North Olmsted Police Department for all the work you guys did with helping on that day. And to the community for the continued support. We will be forever grateful. With all that being said, to Judge Russo, I ask you to do what's best for my family and the community, so she has no opportunity to commit these heinous crimes again. I'm asking you to give her the maximum sentence possible, life without parole. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's exactly what she got. 25 to life. Hold on, let me see if I could find the article. Because, you know, what she did was real bad. I mean, yeah, she is a monster. That's exactly what she is. Let me see. Okay, let's play this one now. Is it gonna play? Oh, Bubba was waking up. Okay, I'm gonna read it. So, psycho who slaughtered toddler in front of his mom, then laughed in court, gets life. So she's got life imprisonment. She's got life imprisonment. So hold on, let me find it. The deranged child killer Bionca Ellis, who hacked a 3-year-old boy to death in shopping cart as his mother unloaded groceries at the Idaho supermarket, will die in prison, a judge ruled. Ellis, 34, who went viral for her sickening, smiling, grinning for the camera during the court appearance soon after the killing, looked miserable. In the common pleas judge Russo slapped her with a maximum penalty. She should be miserable. As jury rejected her instantly defense for the ghastly murder of a young Julian Wood, she vigorously stabbed in the face and back with a pair of stolen butcher's knives in the parking lot of Giant Eagle grocery store in Cleveland suburb of North Olmsted in June 2024. The boy's mother, Margaret, was also injured as she tried to save her son by yanking him out of the shopping cart during the nightmarish assault. The attack lasted just 5 seconds and Ellis arrested minutes, still clenching the bloody knife. During the hearing, Julian's father jeered and described his son funny outcome, which is what we just watched just now. Now all of our hearts will forever be missing a piece. It is up to all of you to keep his light shining. Yeah, that's what he just spoke about just now. I won't go over that again. So yeah, she got life imprisonment. And it's good. It serves her right because she was smiling and laughing and all this stuff when she first went to the appearance. And I think that had a lot to do with it as well. Then they tried to say, oh, it was mental health. They said something else. But obviously, like I said in the previous one, they had to get her to comprehension before they can sentence her, right? Because that's why she was let back out in the first place, because because the judge didn't get her checked the first time. So this time they made sure they go up to comprehension before they got her sentence. So yeah, but so to me this is a good outcome. She's got life imprisonment. She's never gonna come out now. She's never gonna come out. She's never gonna hurt nobody, because she's a danger to people as well as herself. And that's that. Right. So like I said, her apology falls on deaf ears at this prison. There's nothing you can say, no you can do, no you can say to his family to bring their son back. And you can't say nothing. You can't apologize or nothing, because what you did was so out of order, so bad. Then you were smiling and laughing. So yeah, so I just thought I'll update this on my channel, because like as I covered her and I've been watching and listening, I didn't want to cover all of the trial like that. I just want to get to the outcome, because the outcome was very important, and I would need to know what they was going to give her and how they was going to do it. So like they're saying that they'll send her to a facility. She's got to give up all this stuff. She's got to give fingerprints, national insurance number, all that. That's what he was saying at the beginning, because that's when they were sentencing her. So let me take it back to when they were sentencing her.
Discussions that we'll have here on the record from the state and Ms. Ellis and her lawyers, and then my comments. So please bear with me as I comply with the procedural requirements in order to satisfy some of the due process that Ms. Ellis is owed here this morning. So with respect to a number of items that I'm going to address this morning, the first would be that based on the verdict that was handed down, and why don't I go through again just for the record. It was a 10-count indictment. I had dismissed one count during trial. The jury had returned a verdict on case 692-604 of guilty of all the remaining 9 charges. Those 9 charges, count 1 being the aggravated murder, count 2 being murder under the A section of the code, count 3 being under the B section of the code, count 4 was felonious assault, as well as count 8, endangering children, guilty verdict, 2 counts of attempted murder, guilty verdicts, and then finally the last count, which would have been count 10, which was the theft charge, the misdemeanor. Having found and rendered a verdict of guilty, the jury brought forward the requirements under the statute. One is that there's a duty to advise Ms. Ellis of a violent offender being found guilty on the aggravated murder, of some reporting requirements that she's to report in the event that she's placed back in the community. So Ms. Ellis, I'm going to address you on a few items that need to be addressed with you before I go into the sentencing phase. Ms. Ellis, you've had an opportunity to meet with your lawyers before coming out this morning. I have provided them the duty to enroll as a violent offender. I know they spoke to you about it, and I'll go through it just briefly. Your signature is on that form from this morning as well. And so I'll just ask you, Ms. Ellis, did you have a chance to speak to your lawyers about this duty to enroll as a violent offender this morning? Did you have a chance to discuss that? And did you sign that today?
Yeah.
Very good. Being convicted or being found guilty of this offense of aggravated murder, you are required to enroll in person with the sheriff of the county in which you establish residency within 10 days of coming into that county. You're going to have to provide that sheriff a number of items: your social security, full name, residence, the information regarding this verdict from the jury, addresses of employment or school, driver's license information. All of that's required to be provided if given that opportunity to be back in the community to the county sheriff. You're required to provide fingerprints and palm prints, and after the date of initial enrollment, you're required to re-enroll annually as well. And that's something within 10 days of the anniversary that you sign initially with the sheriff. If you change any of your addresses, you do have to provide written notice to the county and the sheriff as well. Failure to do so, you could be charged with additional felonies by the prosecution. And having reviewed that with your lawyers, do you understand that, Ms. Ellis?
Yes.
All right, very good. I'm going to go ahead and sign. With respect to some other requirements that I'm required to advise you of as well, that I want to make sure I do before I hear from all the parties. So with respect to your verdict of guilty that was found regarding count 6 of the indictment, and for the record, for the parties, for the state, and for counsel for Ms. Ellis, the finding of the jury on count 6 and 7 were both felonies of the first degree. I'm going to use count 6 with respect to sentencing guidelines, the felony of the first degree regarding Reagan Tokes notification. So because it's the first felony of the first degree of which the jury returned a verdict, is there any concerns with that? Ms. Fralia, I do have to still advise, still understanding that count 1 will be controlling regarding sentence.
Correct, Your Honor. The state was going to elect on count 7 and have count 6 and count 8 merge into count 7. And we are going to elect on count 7 for sentencing purposes.
So with respect to count 7, so let me just make sure. Okay, so count 7, the felony of the first degree, the court will advise Reagan Tokes. Any objection from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
And then all other Reagan Tokes sentences will merge into that. So, Ms. Ellis, the legislature has put in an indefinite sentence that I have to advise you of regarding this count. Now we've agreed count 7, the court will move forward on regarding Reagan Tokes sentencing guidelines. I know for some of you here in the courtroom, you'll say, why is he doing this? Well, to protect, again, due process and to make sure that I protect the record for the Court of Appeals. So let me just advise you on count 7, the sentence anywhere ranges from 3 to 11 years. Under the Reagan Tokes sentencing guidelines, we'll go to the highest sentence and explain that. Under the highest sentence of 11 years, our legislature has now implemented an indefinite sentence. That indefinite sentence is really a mathematical equation. So if you take the 11 years and divide it in half, you then add it back to the 11 to give the sentencing range. So with respect to Reagan Tokes and count 7, the maximum sentence you could receive is 11 years, which is the minimum, to an indefinite sentence of 16 and a half. So dividing 11 is 5.5, adding it back to 11 is 16 and a half. So I'm advising you, Ms. Ellis, the sentencing range on the maximum sentence with respect to count 7 will be 11 minimum to an indefinite sentence
Yeah, I literally just looked up the Reagan tote. So meanwhile, more than 150 incarcerated people appeal their Reagan tote sentences on these same conditional grounds. 3 Idaho applyee counts found parts of the law inconclusional, while others, including the 8th District Court of Appeal covering county, found the law constitutional. Okay. What is the Reagan-Stokes law? The Reagan-Stokes law is the Reagan-Stokes law is an Idaho state law elected in 2019 that mandates a two-part sentencing system for the first time and second-degree felonies. The maximum term set by the judge and maximum term set at 50% longer than minimum. The law has passed in response to 2017 murder of Reagan Stokes, allows prison officials to extend an inmate's incarceration beyond the minimum sentencing based on behavior during incarceration, such as violating prison rules or not appearing to be rehabilitated. Well, she ain't going to be rehabilitated. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Hold on, let me put
Of 16 and a half. So do you understand that? Okay. Now I'll just read the requirements that the Court of Appeals has asked me to read. So I'll read it to you because I have to read it, but then I'll answer some questions if you have any. For purposes of just this count and all of the other sentence being merged into count 7 for Reagan Stokes, it's presumed, Ms. Ellis, under the law, that an offender is going to be released at service of sentence at the expiration of the minimum term. So if it was the only sentence you were receiving, it's presumed that you would be released at the 11 years, if in fact that's the highest sentence that you receive, and any of the other 3 to 11. It's presumed also that you serve no more than the indefinite sentence. So the maximum I told you was 16 and a half. So that range, and the law says you should be released at the minimum, but you shouldn't serve more than the maximum indefinite sentence.
So in terms of salary, you were
to have a hearing to keep you longer than the minimum. They have to place on the record during that hearing. It's a hearing held at the Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections. They have to outline conduct, which is considered reasons why you should stay longer than the minimum, whether you participated in any rehabilitation, your threat to society, and your restrictive housing, if any, while you have been confined. Ms. Ellis, they have to notify you of the hearing. The hearing is then held with you being present before the Department of Rehabilitation, and then those items that have to be presented to overcome that presumption that you serve the minimum sentence. And finally, they can do it more than one time. So the department may make the specific determinations and maintain your incarceration beyond the minimum sentence more than one time, and they can have multiple hearings, but every hearing they have to have you present and present that evidence that they wanted to present on why you should stay longer. So do you understand those, how that affects a Reagan-Stokes sentencing? Okay, thank you. And then finally, the last advisement that I have to advise is post-release control. Even though we have a life sentence with parole eligibilities that I will consider today for sentencing, I still have to advise you that on the felony of the first degree, under all felonies of the first degree, they will be controlling with respect to post-release control. Ms. Ellis, post-release control is supervision by a parole officer. Here in our state, under felonies of the first degree, You have a mandatory minimum of 2 years that you have to report, up to a maximum of 5 years. That will be imposed upon you if given the opportunity to be placed back in the community. You'll have the ability then to report to a parole officer, and you would have to follow all their terms and conditions. If you violate parole, which is also known, again, I keep saying parole, it's post-release control, or PRC, our parole board has a hearing, and they can determine if you're in violation, and they could send you back to prison for up to 1/2 the time you served for me, or a minimum term imposed upon you in 9-month increments. If you're on post-release control and pick up a new case and convicted of a new felony, the new sentencing judge will have the authority to terminate your post-release control or order a consecutive term up to the greater of 12 months or the remaining period of post-release control. Again, those are advisements that, in order to have due process, I have to note for the record, and I believe I've satisfied the Reagan-Toke requirements, the requirements regarding post-release control, and the requirements regarding the notation of the reporting under the act regarding her violence on her aggravated murder that she has to report to. So that being said, let me just go back to the state of Ohio. Are there anything that you believe I may have missed regarding the mandatory reporting requirements that I needed to place on the record today?
No, Your Honor.
And then on behalf of Ms. Ellis?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you both. All right, that being said, again, here for sentencing, I'll just note for the record that hearing from the parties this morning, I also received some letters from the general public, and those, a couple of those were not noted with names, but I wanted to make whoever the general public is that sent letters to me that I did review those prior to today's sentencing as well. And so I'll ask from the state of Ohio if the state would like to place on the record any comments regarding sentencing before I hand down the sentence here this morning.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, we do. As you notice, I also have the North Olmsted Police Department members of that department are here as well. We're going to begin this morning with Mr. and Mrs. Wood who would like to address the judge.
All right, very good. I think we're going to have the podium, just so you could stand where you're at. We'll have you do that. We'll have Mr. Toms put it there.
But she waits. She waits at the foyer of Giant Eagle, the entrance, as Margot and
My name is Detective Sean Ventris, and I'm with the North Olmsted Police Department. First name is spelled S-E-A-N. Last name is V as in Victor, E-N-T-R-I-C-E. I speak today on behalf of every officer and staff member who was involved in the investigation of the murder of 3-year-old Julian Wood. No amount of training can prepare a police officer for the loss of a child. This case has left a lasting emotional impact on everyone who responded that day. The officers who found Julian Wood will never forget what they saw, the innocence that was taken, and the silence that followed. For many, it is an image and weight they will carry for the rest of their lives. Our department has seasoned officers, people who have spent decades on the job, who struggle to sleep, break down in private, and question how something so cruel could happen. Some sought counseling, others withdrew, and all were changed. In policing, we learn to build emotional armor, but this case pierced through it completely. The impact extended far beyond the station walls. The community where we serve was shaken to its core. Parents became fearful, neighbors grieved together, and many questioned how such violence could touch the life of a young child. The officers who patrol these streets now do so with heavier hearts, knowing that the unthinkable is possible even here in North Olmsted. For months, our investigators worked tirelessly, reviewing the case and collecting evidence. Every step of the process was fueled not just by duty, but by a deep personal drive to bring justice for a little boy who could not speak for himself. This case has reminded us all of both the fragility of life and the weight of our responsibility as protectors of our community. It has strengthened our resolve, but also revealed the deep emotional cost of what we do. On behalf of the North Olmsted Police Department, I ask the court to recognize that this crime did not only destroy one young life, it profoundly affected an entire community and the officers sworn to serve it. Justice in this case is not only about punishment, it is about acknowledging the immense harm done and ensuring that such tragedy is never repeated. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fralia?
Thank you, Your Honor. The overriding purposes of felony sentencing are to protect the public from future crimes and punish the offender. The state, Your Honor, is going to ask you to impose the maximum penalty allowed by law in this case. Life without parole for Julian Wood and consecutive time for Margot Wood. Your Honor, you sat with us for 8 days and learned about Bionca Ellis. She had no regard for human life when she stabbed a vulnerable 3-year-old child.
Exactly. She went out and she stabbed the young man, the 3-year-old. He's an innocent in all this. So really she needs to go down. Hi, Alex. Awakening is happening. People are waking up about the shooting. Here he goes again. I'm not talking about that right now, Alexander. You see, like when I'm talking about something, you was coming with something else. We will talk that. That's another time to talk about that. This right now is about a crime that happened, where an innocent boy got unalive by a psychological crazy lady, because she is a psycho. She's a psycho. You know what I mean? It's not. Wow, I'm not talking about anything else right now. You know what I mean, I don't like when people come into my chats like this. It just really gets on my nerves. When the conversation is switched, I'm not talking about that right now. I'm talking about this. So I'm glad you're here, but you can listen. So I'm not going to be on here long, because that's why my times will be thingy. Yes, we know there's psychos all over the world. It's not just certain parts. But anyways, as you like to sway the conversation. I'm not swaying the conversation. I'm going to keep on the subject to which I have put the topic on right now, and I'm just going to go through and deal with this right now. Okay, but I'm not listening to you, because I always take in what you say. I don't blank you or nothing. But on this time, because of the case, which I have been following for a while, I'm going to finish my conversation about this case right now.
Sitting in a shopping cart, she stabbed him to death after hunting him down. She targeted him. And I'm sure, Your Honor, you remember how this defendant selected her weapon of choice. She left Volunteers of America with 2 knives in her hand. She goes to things outlet, and you observe her on the video searching and looking around with knives behind her back. She walks out, and she goes to a cement column.
Make it Umo with
Liability of the knife. She keeps the 8-inch butcher knife. She continues to walk into Giant Eagle, passing people on both sides of her. But once she sees Julian in a shopping cart and Margot pushing that shopping cart, she does an immediate about-face, and she follows them closely behind. Mrs. Wood stops. The defendant continues to walk past her, but she waits. She waits at the foyer of Giant Eagle, the entrance, as Margot and Julian pass her by. She gets right behind them. She resumes walking behind them through the parking lot until she gets to Margot and Julian. And then you know what happens next. When a murder occurs in our community, folks want answers. When a murder occurs, the victim is able to fight back, yet they succumb to their acts, they succumb to their attack, and they die. What is unique and so heinous in this case is that a defenseless 3-year-old who had absolutely no ability to fight off his attacker was slaughtered by this defendant, and he succumbed to his injuries. The surveillance video of Giant Eagle demonstrates that this defendant carefully chose her victim and executed her plan. Her egregious actions demand the most punishment allowed under the law. You know, Judge, words are bantered about in courtrooms daily. As lawyers, we choose our words carefully. We have word choices, we have pronunciations, we have inflections in our voices. And we have a jury system made up of common, ordinary people who walk into this courtroom not knowing what case they are going to sit on. But that jury system is the crux of our legal system. The jury in this case chose its word carefully, and they found Bionca Ellis guilty of all counts. They rejected the not guilty by reason of insanity at the time of the act, indicating that this defendant knew the difference between right and wrong. Now, Judge, we stand before you and ask you that in a civilized society, we, the people, rely on the recourse of the law. We take an oath to uphold the law. Now it's time to impose punishment for breaking the law. When I hear the word mercy, mercy is given by God. Courtrooms, judges dispense justice. Society, Judge, cannot afford another Bionca Ellis harming another Julian Wood or Margot Wood in this community. I know that you will take everything into consideration. And I know that you will do what society demands and what this family deserves. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Ms. Ellis. Yes. Thank you.
It's a different version of Bionca. Now, typically at this stage, as defense lawyers, we capitulate, we talk about responsibility, we talk about remorse. And what I want to say is this. Mr. Johnson and I respectfully disagree with the verdict. And while we have tremendous
Well, of course you would disagree with the verdict because you believe that how she's an innocent black woman. That's what you're looking at. But she's not an innocent black woman in this case. I feel that how the sentencing fits what she did on this what she did. Normally I would disagree with what's going on in the courts and stuff and certain things what they take and how they deal with it. In this case, she did wrong. There's video evidence. There's no mistaking that she have no remorse. So I feel what they are doing in this case, they are dealing with her accordingly to what she did.
Respect for that family back there, and the courage that they've shown, the civility that they've demonstrated throughout the course of this trial, and respect for the state and law enforcement who did a great job in this case.
Let's get ready to crumble!
We respectfully disagree with it. And what I'll say is that you have to decide the worst form of the offense when you are sentencing. And we all know that all the experts in the case agreed that Bionca was mentally ill. You know she suffered from a severe mental disease. There's no question about that.
Yes, she is mentally ill, but at the same time, right, it just looked too it wasn't given mentally ill at the time. Given that there was something wrong with her, something deeper that was wrong with her, obviously, but it's just the way how she went to do, how she dealt with it, when she got the tool to go and stab the boy and his mother. In the video, right, you clearly see that how like she got the tools, she stabbed in the park. Then she walked like a couple miles, I think they said it was, and that's where they got her. So, yeah, I mean, like you can plead that she was insane as much as you want, but the actions clearly, right? It's like she went in, she walked past them, she targeted them. That's what happened. She targeted them. You know, something similar probably has happened over here. I might even bring that forward as Alex has brought up. Oh yeah, well there's psychos over here. Yes, there's psychos over here too. There's crazy people over here too. Right. So yeah, like she targeted them. She did. It just was the fact that how, right, when she got into the courtroom the first time, she was smiling, she had no remorse. I feel that also played a lot of why they have sentenced her the way they did. She showed no signs of remorse. She was laughing. Now, when a parent is looking at a person who has unalived their child and you're laughing like that, so obviously, right, you need to get the sentencing according to what you did. Life for life. And I think that's what the judge did. He gave her life for life. Life without no parole.
And that we all know that from at least January of 2024, all the way up until June of 2024, she was unstable, she was hospitalized, and she was not on medication. You had that evidence as recent as maybe 3 or 4 days prior to this incident while she was in the North Olmsted jail. So she's not okay from January to June of 2024. And then once she's arrested and she comes into the arraignment room for the next couple of months, we know that she's incompetent. Somehow, just on the day of the incident, she's not well. And I'm by no means, I'm not relitigating this. That's not my intention. You understand that. This is something that you're allowed to take into consideration for purposes of mitigation and deciding whether or not this case is the worst form of the offense. I'm firmly convinced that had she been found not guilty by reason of insanity, based on my experience with these cases, that she'd probably be in hospital for the next 20, 30 years. You're allowed to weigh all of that. And she's been in custody for almost a year and a half. When on medication, she's been on custody without incident. I don't know if they want me to point them out, but she's had strong family support throughout the course of this trial. And looking at the sentencing factors under 29-29-12, I think that there's a lot of mitigation in this case. And I know how powerful these facts are as it relates to the death of a child. And I know it's a very weighty decision for you. But judges don't make decisions based on emotions. You follow the law, you look at the sentencing factors, and then you make a decision based on her history and her characteristics. You make a decision based on what you know about her. So, both Mr. Johnson and I respectfully ask the court to consider 20 years before she's parole eligible to a life sentence and sentence her accordingly as it relates to Margot's injuries. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, anything? Anything on Ms. Ellis would like to speak?
I just want to say I apologize. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, you can be seated. Thank you. Thank you.
And looking at the sentencing factors under 29-29-12, I think that there's a lot of mitigation in this case. And I know how powerful these facts are as it relates to the death of the child. And I know it's a very weighty decision for you. But judges don't make decisions based on emotions. You follow the law, you look at the sentencing factors, and then you make a decision based on her history and her characteristics. You make a decision based on what you know about her. So, both Mr. Johnson and I respectfully ask the court to consider 20 years before she's parole eligible to a life sentence and sentence her accordingly as it relates to Margot's injuries. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, anything? Anything on Ms. Ellis would like to speak?
I just want to say I apologize. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, you can be seated. Thank you. They have found that although we all have agreed that you suffer from schizophrenia, that you did understand the nature and wrongfulness of your actions as handed down in all of the guilty verdicts by this jury. You know, the power of the American jury system is that it reflects the values of all the community that they represent. And as I sit here as a judge for almost 21 years, as a court, I accept the finding of your peers, and I'll sentence accordingly. You know, the tragic sequence of events of June 3rd of 2024 and that attack, the jury has found was calculated and wholly without justification or reason of any kind.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say to the situation that be. Yeah. Yes, she may have had some mental health, but it's just too, you know, the way how she moved doesn't speak exactly what it is, even though there is not a certain way to how a mental health person moves, like, because mental health can be a silenced one, it can be a loud one, right? Right, there's people who hear voices in their heads. There's all type of mental health. Schizophrenia is a one where people either black out, they don't remember what they did, all sorts of things, right? But it still doesn't say that you should take away a life. You shouldn't unalive a person, right? That's not for you to do. But okay, let's continue.
You know, I re-watched every video for preparation for sentencing that was presented during the trial. And I find that it's clear that in that evidence, you are fixated on the very first child that you crossed paths with that tragic day. That tragic day, you chose to end the life of Julian Wood. A life, as we heard today, that was filled with limitless promises. Your choice has inflicted immeasurable pain on the Wood family, on your own family, and as we heard, on the community in which we all live. Mental illness does not excuse what you did. Although it will be taken into consideration when you are sentenced, that you continue to receive ongoing treatment while incarcerated. Ms. Ellis, I hope that you use this time to confront the harsh reality of the actions that you've created here in the courtroom. No sentence that I hand down today can undo the pain that you cause, but justice requires that your actions have consequences. Before concluding with my sentence and outlining what I will hand down today, I do want to take a moment to address an issue that confronts this court and our communities near and far. This tragedy did not occur in isolation. As a society that cares for the members of the community, we cannot continue to ignore the glaring gap in our county's mental health support system. It is not lost on this court that this trial started during Mental Illness Awareness Week, a week that recognizes the importance of meaningful connections, advocacy, and local actions to ensure that adequate mental health services are available to each and every citizen here in Cuyahoga County. Significantly, the medical experts in this case testified on October 10th, a day that was globally recognized as World Mental Health Day, a day that's dedicated to raising awareness around mental disorders and combating their social stigma. It's in this spirit, I hope we all continue to confront the gap between the need for mental health treatment and its effective and equitable distribution and provision to all of those in our community. And therefore, I urgently implore our city and county leaders to continue providing facilities and programs that respond quickly and compassionately to those in crisis. The need is dire now than far too many of us realize. The leaders in this county have been discussing this topic for far too long. Please get it done. No family should have to lose a child, and no family should have to watch their loved ones deteriorate because meaningful and effective mental health services were unavailable. The absence of adequate and functioning mental health facilities in our community has tragic consequences. And I call upon our leaders at every level of government to make providing and supporting mental health care a true priority so that others in crisis can be helped before another tragedy occurs. But Ms. Ellis, again, I want to state that while your mental illness was accepted by this jury, it is not an excuse for what you did. The jury found that although you suffer from schizophrenia, you understood the nature and wrongfulness of your actions and handed down their guilty verdict on all charges. When reviewing the sentencing factors as outlined under 29-29-11 and 29-29-12, my job as a judge here is to punish the offender, but also to make sure that the sentence should be proportionate and not demeaning to the seriousness of the offender's conduct and the impact on the victims, and consistent with other sentences with similar crimes. In looking at the seriousness, of course, the child's age and the suffering weigh heavily for this court as well. And so with respect to my sentencing, after taking in consideration all the matters before the court that are appropriate under the principles and purposes of sentencing, the court's going to impose the following sentence. Starting with count 2, as found guilty on count 2 of murder, it's a life with parole eligibility at 15 years. On count 3, the murder charge under the B section, it's life with parole eligibility at 15 years. And those are the maximum sentences that can be handed down on those 2 counts. On count 4, with respect to the Reagan-Toke sentencing guidelines, count 4 and count 8 are both felonies of the 2nd-degree felonious assault. We also speak to count 5, which was the endangering children as a felony of the 2nd degree. And then we speak to count 7 and 6. The state and I have agreed that I will move forward with count 7. Under count 7, under the Reagan-Toke sentencing guidelines on the attempted murder in count 7, the court's going to hand down the maximum sentence of 11 years as the minimum sentence to the indefinite sentence of 16 and a half years. Again, I've outlined the Reagan-Toke guidelines and the reporting requirements for post-release control that will be controlling on all other felonies of the 2nd and 1st degree, this being the highest level. I've outlined the 5 provisions, as I noted for the record already. And then with respect to the count 4 and 8, the maximum sentence is 8 years. I'll hand down that sentence. Count 5, 8 years. Count 6, 11 years. Count 8, 8 years. And then as indicted, count 10, which would be a 6-month sentence on the misdemeanor charge. Regarding aggravated murder and finding the defendant guilty of aggravated murder by this jury, the court's going to hand down a sentence of life without parole. I'll run every other sentence concurrent to life without parole. Credit to 509 days of the time that you've served. I'll order you in the custody of the sheriff to transport you to Marysville Correctional Facility. I'll also indicate that fines, fees, and court costs will be waived with respect to this sentence. In addition to the verdict that has been handed down by this jury and the sentence that the court handed down, Ms. Ellis, you have a right to appeal both the sentence and the conviction in this case. You can do that by filing a notice of appeal with the clerk of courts within 30 days of this sentence. If you're unable to pay for the cost of an appeal, you have the right to appeal without payment of costs. If you're unable to obtain counsel for an appeal, I'll appoint counsel to represent you. If you're unable to pay the cost of documents necessary, they are provided to you without cost.
Now they're giving her too much options. But anyways, I'm going to leave it right here. Please leave a comment in the comment section. Tell me what you think of this. Though they're giving her life sentence, they're giving her a chance to appeal as well. So obviously, right, it's still this is really going to be, this is very emotional for the parents of Julian right now. So though she's been sentenced to life without parole. But please leave a comment in the comment section and we can have a chat about this, and I'll see you in the next live. Take care. Bye.